A secret test track in the California desert. A strange place to find a Japanese sport bike. But stranger still is the story of the man behind the machine. A man who created a motorcycle company that should have gone out of business 50 years ago.
He was one of hundreds that took bicycles and put engines in them. Most of them failed, and he failed. And he kept trying and kept trying.
He was a man whose passion for racing kept him going, even when it almost drove his company bankrupt.
He got in racing even before he'd been around for 10 years. You know, it almost broke him.
But this amazing man would not be broken. In fact, he dared to fight convention and always did things his way.
He was really a visionary and a maverick.
A maverick whose fascination with speed extended into his factories, where today they know precisely how long it takes to build a motorcycle.
It is about 1 hour or 3,600 seconds.
He was a man who created the most popular motorized vehicle in history.
So far, worldwide cumulative production has been around 54 million units.
Another of his creations was a motorcycle with virtually every feature found on the car.
When most people think about features like anti-lock brakes, huge cargo capacity, satellite navigation, heated seats, and an airbag, they're not thinking about a motorcycle.
And most people don't think about the man behind the motorcycle, the man who never gave up, the man who built the largest motorcycle company in the world. Few people even know that his first name was Soichiro, but everybody knows his last name. It's Honda. Modern-day Tokyo is the most populated metropolitan area in the world. With 35 million people living here, Tokyo can seem overwhelming. Tokyo has long been a city swarming with people. Even in 1922, more than 2 million people lived there. But the crowds didn't intimidate Soichiro Honda. He was drawn to Tokyo by his fascination for a new mechanical invention that had recently arrived in Japan: the internal combustion engine.
Mr. Honda was a true spirit and a genius, an entrepreneur who was absolutely captivated by the sound, the feel, and the essence of internal combustion engines.
While Mr. Honda was captivated by engines, he was also pragmatic, stubborn, and yet extremely creative. Without money or connections, he would never become part of Japanese traditional corporate culture. But he didn't care. Soichiro Honda was a man with a dream.
Soichiro Honda wanted to be #1 in the world, not just in Japan. That was his dream.
Today, Soichiro Honda's dream to create the largest motorcycle company in the world is a reality. Honda sells 13 million motorcycles a year. No other company anywhere even comes close. Soichiro Honda was born in 1906 in a small village that eventually became part of Hamamatsu, Japan. His father was a blacksmith who also repaired bicycles. Soichiro left home when he was just 16 to spend 6 years as an apprentice automobile mechanic in Tokyo. He lacked a formal education, but he was obsessed with anything that had an engine.
Mr. Honda was a man from humble origins. He didn't have a degree in engineering. He didn't graduate from an engineering school, but he learned engineering the hard way.
Having learned to be a mechanic, Soichiro Honda went home to Hamamatsu in 1928. Just 22 years old, he opened a small automobile repair shop called the Art Sokai, and soon gained the reputation of a man who could fix just about anything wrong with a car. Saiichiro's mechanical talents also fueled his passion for racing. He built his first race car from a junk pile collection of old automobile parts. After years as an apprentice and working 6 and 7 days in his garage, Saiichiro Honda had a successful business going. But World War II changed everything. In 1948, Saiichiro Honda risked his entire life savings, $3,200, to open a new business. The Honda Motor Company. Its initial goal? Provide desperately needed, cheap transportation for a country coming out of the ravages of war.
で、宗一郎さんは人の役に立ちたいという思いで製品を作られた。
Soichiro Honda's basic desire was to offer something very useful to the people. And at that time in Japan, the only way for people to get around was on bicycles.
Working out of a wooden shack, Soichiro Honda and a few helpers wrenched small, Army surplus gasoline engines onto bicycle frames. Honda calls his motorized bicycle the A-Type. It is the machine that puts the Honda Motorcycle Company in business. But just being in business isn't enough for Soichiro Honda. He dreams of building a real motorcycle with an engine and a frame he designs and manufactures. In 1949, that dream becomes a reality when the Honda D-Type is introduced. Ironically, that first complete motorcycle is called the Dream.
This is the Honda Dream D. Our company was established in 1948, and this motorcycle was brought to market just 1 year later in 1949. I'll tell you why we put the name Dream on this model. When this motorcycle was completed, all the engineers and mechanics were impressed with their work, and one of them said, "Wow, this is like a motorcycle dream."
The Dream D is a huge success, and by the end of 1949, Honda has 60% of the Japanese motorcycle market. It seems almost everyone in Japan is riding a Honda.
Motorcycle use in Japan in the 1950s increased quite dramatically, and at one point in time, there was a motorcycle for every 20 households.
Many of those motorcycles are yet another new model, the Honda Dream E. Introduced in 1951, the Dream E is a breakthrough model for Honda in both performance and sales. But the E-Type success wasn't enough for the dreamer in Saiichiro Honda. Racing is still his passion. And in contrast to traditional Japanese modesty, he issues a remarkable public challenge.
In 1954, with his company just barely in its infancy and just barely getting its financial footing, he shocked his employees by saying, well, now that we're an established motorcycle company, we're going to go racing, and we're going to win the world championship. And everybody was stunned.
Saiichiro stuns everyone by publishing this memo and putting the challenge to himself, his workers, and the entire world in writing.